Ambassador, thank you so much for your time. You will be leaving mid-Jan next year, but let's look back at the work that we've done in South Africa. Take us through your observation since your arrival. How will you sum up the relations between South Africa and the United States of America?
Well, as I prepare to conclude my tenure here as a U.S. ambassador and depart this great country, I am confident that relations between the United States of America and the Republic of South Africa are stronger than when I arrived. Our countries have been talking and engaging with each other at an unprecedented level over the last 2.5 years. We've just witnessed an historic delegation from the U.S. city of Atlanta, led by the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens, in a signature subnational diplomacy program that we call Atlanta Phambili, developed in consultation with our South African partners. Our presidents have been in communication. 1/3 of the United States Senate has been here to South Africa during my tenure. And so these are all very positive signs. And so I am grateful for the partnership we've enjoyed with the government and people of South Africa. And I leave South Africa with a head held high and a full heart.
Well, let's look at trade between the two countries in terms of volumes.
So the total volume of trade between South Africa and the United States of America was about $21 billion at the end of 2023. And of that trade, South Africa enjoyed an $8 billion trade surplus with the United States of America. That is the largest trade surplus that South Africa enjoys with any other sovereign country by far. That trade surplus is undergirded by some 600 American companies that operate in South Africa, employing 250,000 South Africans and generating revenue roughly equivalent to 10% of the entire national economy of South Africa. So all of these things demonstrate the robust trade and economic relationship between our two countries, and also do something, frankly, more fundamental. They demonstrate that the United States is committed to South Africa, and committed to South Africa remaining a democracy that can deliver for its people.
Is there a room for improvement or perhaps increasing this trade volume? And perhaps which sectors are you thinking of where perhaps South Africa and America can concentrate on if they want to increase this trade volume?
There is substantial room for improvement. I would love to see that trade volume increase to $50 billion a year, and love to see American companies be 1,000 companies operating here in South Africa. I think the potential is enormous. Everything from improving and strengthening our agricultural trade with each other to strengthening manufacturing capabilities here in South Africa. The technology sector creates ample opportunities, as does the creative sector as well. So the possibilities are literally limitless, and I look forward to seeing what may come in the years ahead.
When we look at what you said, there was a summit of climate in Pretoria where South Africa was unpacking, Treasury in particular, its approach to climate change in relation to just energy transition. How is the U.S. assisting South Africa to achieve its goal in terms of just energy transition?
Well, the principal mechanism for that has been the Just Energy Transition Partnership, which was something that was launched at COP26, I believe, several years ago, in which the United States, along with several other countries and entities, promised $8.5 billion to help facilitate a Just Energy Transition Plan, of which $1 billion would come from the U.S. government through various loan guarantees to work in the green economy sector. We understand that this is a complex matter for South Africa, that the justness in the Just Energy Transition matters immensely to ensure that any transition takes into account the very human factors of that at the local level. We also understand that given the energy challenges, the electricity challenges that South Africa has had in recent years, that this has to be done in a way that doesn't do anything to further exacerbate the electricity security of the country. But these things are all manageable. They simply require greater discussion, greater connectivity with each other, because as our French colleagues said, there is no planet B. We have all seen the impacts of climate change around the world, and this is something that we're all going to have to work on together.
Well, the criticism is that the G20 member countries, the resources that they've made available for developing countries such as South Africa to tap into to address this issue of climate change, a majority is loans, and they would want to see the resources or the loan or making money available be restructured or in terms of ensuring that it's more of grants.
Well, I can certainly speak to the U.S. government's approach to that, and that is the $1 billion commitment from the Development Finance Corporation of the United States is in loan guarantees to private actors. Mm-hmm. So, and they don't have to be American companies. They can be South African companies. I'll give you a very basic example. Mm-hmm. In order to take advantage of the unbelievable renewable energy potential that is in the Northern Cape through wind and solar, mm-hmm. there are going to have some 14,000 kilometers of new transmission lines will have to be built. That is an effort that is ripe for private sector companies to engage in. The U.S. Development Finance Corporation has $1 billion available to help support those companies, not one dime of which will add to the sovereign debt of the Republic of South Africa. And quite frankly, we have yet to see anything close to the majority of that money being tapped. And so there is enormous potential to engage in this. We very much hope that this initiative will be able to continue going forward.
Let's look at the political relations. It has been very challenging, we know, with the global factors, particularly for diplomats in the respective countries. Your stay in South Africa, you earlier told me that you were looking forward to this country in terms of its history and who you are and your views in terms of the just world and also the issues of justice. At times it got even challenging, particularly after the war in Ukraine started, and you were criticized for saying that there's a suspicion that the Lady R that docked in Cape Town had arms. Do you regret the statements?
One of the great lessons that I learned here in South Africa is this beautiful phrase of let us work to find each other. And that is not only a phrase, but a philosophy that I will take with me in the years going forward. We have had some non-trivial disagreements between our two countries during my tenure here. Some of them have been quite public, some of them have been private. But we continue to work to find each other, and I am certain that as I end my tenure here, we concluded with the government of the United States and the Republic of South Africa in stronger relations than we were even just a few years ago.
The other issue is the programs that America is involved in, particularly where South Africa does benefit. I want us to talk about Agoa, quite an important program. You spoke about the trade volume, and Agoa does contribute towards achieving that number. But there are concerns that because it is up for renewal, this is going to be a difficult task. What's your view? Do you think South Africa and the U.S. can find one another and we can see the renewal of Agoa and South Africa being part of Agoa?
Well, Agoa is a development program that uses trade as a mechanism, and it is a program that is authorized by the U.S. Congress and therefore is enshrined in U.S. law. Literally as we speak, just within the last 48 hours, Republican Congressman John James has tabled a bill before the U.S. Congress to extend Agoa and to extend it with very favorable circumstances. For example, to extend it through the year 2037. It remains the policy of the Biden administration that Agoa should be renewed and that South Africa should be included in that renewal. So these conversations are happening right now, and we are all hopeful that the United States Congress will lead us to a favorable outcome in that regard.
It's interesting that this is a Republican, because we know that in terms of elections, you now have a leader from the Republican Party, the president-elect. Do you think he will also be very willing, like President Biden is right now, to renew Agoa?
Well, it has been the honor of a lifetime for me to serve as the personal representative of President Joseph Biden here in South Africa. My tenure as U.S. ambassador and therefore as the president's personal representative will conclude on January 10th. I can't speculate as to what the new administration will do. What I can say is that I am certain that just as it has been over the course of the last 4 or 5 decades, U.S.-South Africa ties have always been rooted in people-to-people ties between our peoples. They've always been rooted in ties between our business ties, between our companies. They've always been rooted in creative ties between our artists and our musicians. I suspect that will continue in the years ahead, and I look forward to always remaining a friend of South Africa.